Greetings, dear viewers. Midnight Philosopher here again with yet another response video. This episode features a recording that's been making the rounds on social media. An excerpt from a debate between Voice of Reason's Alex Horado, representing Catholicism, and Denny, or Ubi Petros, representing Orthodox Christianity. This particular iteration of the footage also includes an additional snippet of commentary from Michael Lofton of Reason and Theology and Matt Fradd of Pints with Aquinas. Of course, all relevant channels and the relevant video will be linked in the description below. Let's get started, shall we?
I just want to know what the Eastern Orthodox Church teaches. Question number 1, is the use of contraception objectively sinful?
No.
So what about all the churches that teach that it is objectively sinful?
I need to see official statements on that.
Are those churches in schism?
No, it just means
Why
the
not?
issue isn't settled.
So the issue isn't settled in Orthodoxy.
It's not an issue that
So
needs
they're
to
not-
be settled.
One thing that I'd hoped I would find an answer to the more I was Orthodox, how does the teaching authority of the church work? Is artificial contraception wrong, in Orthodoxy? How can I objectively know what is right versus wrong? What is an ecumenical council? How do I know what is definitive and what is not? What is binding on me? What is not? Those were all questions that I was asking because as somebody who's Orthodox, I want to live my faith in accordance with what the church tells me to believe. So when I start asking those practical questions, I just continue to see problems. There are some things that are in dispute in Catholicism, just as they're in dispute in Orthodoxy. But the difference is this: Catholicism has a way to objectively settle those issues. I'm not saying that in Eastern Orthodoxy.
This exchange between Alex and Denny in the first part, and the subsequent conversation between Lofton and Fradd, highlight what is a major driving force behind conversions to Catholicism, particularly when converts are joining the church from other forms of Christianity. The impetus for conversions is the attraction to Rome's benevolent authoritarianism and doctrinal legalism, which offers black and white answers to pressing questions in life's ocean of gray. Whether the uncertainty comes from how to read Scripture, what exactly takes place at the celebration of the Eucharist, who understands the Blessed Virgin Mary's role in salvation history correctly, and many, many other queries, the Catholic Church always seems to have an answer, a definition, a dogmatic ruling. In this particular conversation, the chief concern is the morality of the use of contraception. In comparing Orthodoxy's approach to Catholicism's, the former allows for a kind of moral particularism, offering advice based on the unique circumstances of a married couple. The latter condemns the use of birth control, without exceptions. However, polls show that upwards of 80% of folks in the pews disagree with the Roman Catholic Church's official stance. And this debacle points to a larger issue. Catholicism's credibility relies heavily on the argument that the Church has taught the same truth consistently for 2,000 years, and sexual ethics have become a key battleground in a kind of identity politics war. Regardless of how most Catholics feel about the matter, the brute assertion of correctness in the debate is more important than actually making a compelling case in the face of real emotional, physical, and material harms that stem from denying married couples the use of many tools to plan their family and intimate life. This inflexibility in the birth control debate, and the sexual ethic more broadly, is the hierarchy's signal of strength and the Church's attempt to set itself apart from the rest of Christian denominations that, quote, compromised with the world by allowing contraception, beginning with Anglican's 1930 Lambeth Conference. Of course, there is no acknowledgement of the fact that history is a bit messier than the higher-ups would like to admit, and despite the Church's insistence that she has taught consistently, there have been in fact notable changes throughout the centuries. For instance, there is no longer any emphasis on the sin of usury, that is, charging interest on loans. Another example is that, to the dismay of many radical traditional Catholics, the last 4 popes have declared that the death penalty is inadmissible. And in the area of sexual ethics, permission for and even promotion of the use of natural family planning in the last several decades stands in contrast to centuries of teaching against any intimate encounter that purposely avoids procreation. Indeed, while different in form, NFP essentially functions as Catholic birth control and is a sort of loophole that has a chance of offering families relief from constant pregnancy, though the method is marked by its unreliability. These aforementioned changes, and many more, including on the topics of slavery, religious freedom, and the separation of church and state, are so hard to notice without consuming countless hours combing through the archives of history and theology. The church either strategically stops mentioning things in the hopes that people will forget, or these changes are concealed beneath layers and layers of flowery theological verbiage. In future videos, I will continue to examine and deconstruct Catholic sexual ethics, but for now, I will return from this digression to the original point. As Michael Lofton quite plainly states, the search for objective truth and objective moral pronouncements was crucial to his spiritual journey from Orthodoxy to Catholicism, and he wanted to believe in accordance with what the church told him to believe. Many other types of Christians express similar sentiments when choosing to join the Roman Catholic Church, and indeed there is a prevalent anxiety over finding the correct set of beliefs and moral guidance that is a symptom of orthodoxy's and especially Protestantism's more democratic approach to faith. Catholicism's strength does lie in its doctrinal uniformity and dogmatic authority, which lends itself to greater cohesion throughout the global church. The flexibility of orthodoxy and seemingly never-ending fragmentation of Protestant denominations fails to offer solace when there is a serious fear and dread that the wrong theology and incorrect moral system are displeasing to God and could result in being cast down into the everlasting furnace. The Roman Catholic Church, in contrast, is able to assuage that gnawing trepidation by inviting adherents to surrender intellect and will in exchange for a clerical stamp of approval, assuring them that they are indeed on the narrow path to the pearly gates. There is a kind of spiritual practicality to this approach, and congregants are no longer burdened by having to make these impossible calculations about the state of their salvation. As evidenced by the featured brief clip, many people have this yearning for a return to childhood and escaping total adult responsibility in a spiritual sense. The comfort of having the correct beliefs, adhering to the objective moral code, and being a member of the one true religion. In other words, the liberation from confronting any kind of existential ambiguity is worth relinquishing the freedom of intellect and conscience. But the grand irony is that in selecting the institutional authority to which we submit ourselves completely, we still do not entirely escape following our own intellects and conscience.